Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Women's Voices Raised for Social Justice, our Lunch and Learn, which we do monthly, sometimes more than once a month. We're very happy to have you here today. My name is Liz Sondhaus. I am past president of Women's Voices and currently co-chair with Ann Litwin of our Racial Justice Committee. And we have the honor of hosting Mrs. Carla Alexander, who is co-president of the Jeff-Vander-Lou Neighborhood Association, to give us a very timely and compelling presentation on the importance of the work that they are doing to preserve the history of the Jeff-Vander-Lou neighborhood, and also to help us understand their current fight to protect this majority Black historical neighborhood and historic district from bi-state development and the East-West Gateway Council's attempts to build a MetroLink extension into their neighborhood, which will really create many problems for the community as well as threaten their historic legacy. So we're very grateful that Mrs. Alexander could take time out of her very busy schedule, and believe me, it is very busy, to speak with us on this very important topic. And she will also introduce other guests that we have, one other guest who's going to also speak on behalf of her neighborhood association and the work that they're doing together with Jeff-Vander-Lou. Just a few housekeeping comments. We normally have our speakers speak 30 to 40 minutes and then save about 20 minutes for your questions and comments. If during the presentation something comes to mind, feel free to post it in our chat. I will be checking that, and after the presenters have had a time to do their presentation, then I'll be happy to share any questions that are posted there. And we'll also open it if you, at that time, I will call for questions. You can just use your, the little icon of a raised hand on your Zoom to indicate you'd like to ask a question. And I'm happy to, call out anyone who would like to do that. I do want to remind folks, if you're not speaking, please keep yourself muted. We are recording this. This presentation will be on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So if there are folks who weren't able to attend today that would be interested in this topic, please feel free to let them know it will be on YouTube. And also keep yourself muted so we don't have background noise coming up in the recording. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure. I've met Mrs. Alexander now a couple times. I have so much respect for the work she's doing. So I'd like to introduce to you Mrs. Carla Alexander, the co-president of the Jeff-Vander-Lou Neighborhood Association. Thank you so much, Mrs. Alexander.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you all for your time and attention today. Just want to make a small minor edit. I am not a co-president of JVL. I'm sorry, forgot to tell you guys. But my husband and I are actually on the advisory board. Yeah, our chair of Jeff-Vander-Lou is Pastor Andre Logan. Yeah. So just so everyone could know that. But thank you all for your time again. So just a little brief running through our history. Jeff-Vander-Lou is neighborhood number 79. I'm sorry, 59. We have 79 neighborhoods in the city of St. Louis. And I just want to take this from our city website. So historically, the majority of the JVL neighborhood is part of an area referred as to the Yateman area. If you all are familiar with the Mercantile Library Association, Yateman, he was a prominent Tennessee native who relocated to St. Louis in 1842. Now let's fast forward to 1960s. So JVL was actually founded by Mr. Mackler C. Shepard. He lived from 1917 to 2005, but he was a housing activist and a community developer. So the name Jeff-Vander-Lou was taken from three major streets in the neighborhood: Jefferson, Vandeventer, and St. Louis Avenue. In a 1972 documentary, Mr. Shepard explained Jeff-Vander-Lou was simply named from the thoroughfares by which the downtown flow of traffic goes and comes. So the north side section of our city, it's often called JVL, that's Jeff-Vander-Lou for short. It was one of the first areas where African Americans were allowed to own real estate. However, in the second half of the 20th century, housing conditions declined. Mr. Shepard and members of the Jeff-Vander-Lou organization worked courageously for years to develop quality, affordable housing and make living conditions better for homeowners and renters. And so that's where we are today. We've had several organizations after Mr. Shepard passed away, to keep it going. And our organization just kind of latched on to both of those. We merged the names together, but AKA we are the Jeff-Vander-Lou Neighborhood Association. The long name for us is the Jeff-Vander-Lou Whole New Area 2 Neighborhood Development Association. Now, just a little bit of history about the whole new area. Back in the day, people used to call Jeff-Vander-Lou the Whole, H-O-L-E. Well, we got tired of that, right? Don't call us a whole. So they changed H-O-L-E to W-H-O-L-E. And that's why the whole new area is part of our formal name. But everybody's like, that's too long, that's too long. So we're AKA JVL Association, Neighborhood Association. All right, so I want to go ahead and just share with you, I know everybody on this call is probably familiar with Mr. Paul McKee and other developers who, just said they're going to do one thing, but all they did was buy up our land and didn't take care of it, right? So we're in the middle of an eminent domain process. There's a Chapter 99 with the state of Missouri that we heard and found out we were in a blighting study. So 850 acres around the NGA, which is at the corner of Jefferson and Cass, were blighted. So we found out in the state of Missouri, there is a statute called a Chapter 99. And what you can do, you can take the blighting study and merge it with a redevelopment plan from the community, merge it together. And right now, that's what we have. We have now a law that says that if you are an owner-occupied property, if you live in your property or you own even vacant lots adjacent to your property, you do not have a threat of being eminent domain out of your community for 20 years. Now, with that, there is also a tax abatement in our redevelopment plan. If you apply $2,000 to the exterior of your property, you can get a tax abatement freeze for 10 years. So those are the kind of incentives that we have in our redevelopment plan that we merged with the blighting study. And it benefits the neighbors. And we're hoping and praying that they do the right thing and allow us, that this law will stay intact and in place and actually continue after that 20 years is up. So all the disinvestment, decades of disinvestment that we've been in, it's just a lot of challenges that we go through. And unlike any other neighborhoods, we have to have petition drives just to keep our post office open. It's not normal. We go through things just trying to keep the amenities and things that we have that other neighborhoods don't even have to worry about. So we were faced recently well, it hasn't been, it's not recently, like this year, but it was last year, like 2022, 2023, we started finding out about a MetroLink expansion called the Green Line. At that time, it was just called the North-South Alignment. But we said, uh-oh, here we go again. But when we found out the route was kind of intrusive. It was going to, go in front of our homes, and we just said, we're going to have to do something about this. And we have a special guest who will speak after our presentation on the Metro Leg to Nowhere. Miss Greenfield is from Lafayette Square neighborhood. And the way we met her, it was miraculous, actually. We thought that we would have to meet and greet and introduce ourselves to everybody in the community, all the neighborhoods along that corridor, and we'll line it out and show you all everything. But it was miraculous when we went to her neighborhood meeting with Lafayette Square. She was the first one that came up to us and said, "We feel the same way." I was like, oh my God, thank you. So along the way, we are meeting more and more and more people who are in opposition to this Metro light rail extension. And it's not that we're, trying to hold anybody up for economic development. I mean, who better than us wants economic development? That's what we've been fighting for years. So I'll go ahead and share a screen. And we thank you so much, Women Voices Raised for Social Justice, for allowing us to do this. We really appreciate you all. Okay, can everyone see the screen? Okay. All righty, so we're gonna start with this first slide. So our team titled our presentation, "The Metro Leg Extension to Nowhere." It's a proposed light rail on Natural Bridge from Parnell Street to Grand Boulevard. And as you see the map, there are 16 neighborhoods along the corridor. That light rail will start Chippewa and Jefferson, that's South City, and it will continue north on Jefferson. And when it gets around here about the NGA, like right in this area, Jefferson Avenue turns into Parnell Street. Parnell Street goes to Natural Bridge, you make a left-hand turn and you go up to Grand. So the little circular area is the Metro Leg Extension to Nowhere. The statement from our community reads, City of St. Louis Bi-State Metro and the East-West Gateway Council of Governments need to reroute this north side, south side light rail because of the enormous impact on the safety and integrity of our communities. Exhibit 1 shows the highlights of the blue oval. Again, that's the Metro Leg Extension to Nowhere. And then if you look at the dashed rectangular box, historic communities will be adversely impacted. Natural Bridge is the northern border of JVL's Lindell Park subdivision, National Historic District. So there are 4 city neighborhoods directly impacted by the light rail traveling on Natural Bridge: Fairground, Hyde Park, Jeff-Vander-Lou, and St. Louis Place. And if you're familiar with that corner of Natural Bridge and Grand, we have Fairground Park, our Aldi's grocery store, and our BP and mobile gas stations. So these are some of the adverse impact concerns to the community that Bi-State and Metro have not addressed yet. Light rail running in front of our homes, structural damage to older homes, zoning changes to decrease parking, health concerns, everyday steady noise and vibration, more concrete and then metal. Safety concerns. This light rail is rapid transit. It's supposed to travel 35 miles an hour. and we feel that our crime will increase. Property value increase leads to property tax increase, which leads to gentrification. And everyone knows that gentrification is where residents are displaced and history is not preserved. We had a sales tax increase on the ballot. If you are familiar with Mrs. Lyda Crewson, when she ran for mayor in 2017, Proposition 1 was on the ballot. And Proposition 1 reads, shall the city of St. Louis impose a sales tax at a rate of 0.5% for economic development purposes, including 1, North-South MetroLink, 2, neighborhood revitalization, 3, workforce development, 4, public safety, and 5, to upgrade the city's infrastructure with annual public audits. So this passed with a 60% margin because they grouped all of the nice things together to make it sound wonderful. Light rail, there's no flexibility. It's no flexibility like buses when breakdowns occur. Traffic congestion. It takes away our bus stops. Light rail stations will be too far apart. There are 10 proposed stations, but now people will have to walk further to catch the bus. It abruptly ends at Grand and Natural Bridge. 1/2 mile to nowhere does not serve the north side. It severely clashes with community's vision for green space and historic preservation. And County Executive Sam Page does not support the north side, south side light rail proposal to extend to the county. Jeff-Vander-Lou is in a neighborhood planning process. We're partnering with the St. Louis Development Corporation. It's our planned neighborhood initiative with 5 other neighborhoods. It's a community-driven initiative to create our neighborhood plans for Hyde Park, St. Louis Place, Old North St. Louis, Columbus Square, and Carr Square. And all of us have our visions for our neighborhood, and that MetroLink extension to nowhere is not our plan. So we would like for you to look at this news segment. Elliot Davis, before he retired, he did this news segment in April of this year. And I'm going to start it. I'd like for you to view this. Thank you. Let me try it again. Hold on, everybody.
Well, tonight we hit the rails to talk to Bi-State CEO Talby Roach about a $1 million MetroLink expansion. It is a dream for supporters like Roach, but to detractors, it is a disaster waiting to happen. Elliot Davis takes a look into the nights you paid for it.
Bi-State President and CEO Talby Roach met me aboard one of the MetroLink trains about the proposed Green Line, a north-side-south-side MetroLink expansion project. Local government leaders at East-West Gateway Council of Governments recently okayed the proposal that ultimately calls for going to the federal government for hundreds of millions of dollars to help build it.
Is this a good deal for taxpayers? I mean, it's $1 billion.
It's priced at $1 billion. Feels like a lot of money.
But of course,
sure it is, of course. But look, this is about the infrastructure of our city. This is how people move. This is how they get to jobs. This is how they make that economic mobility of getting to the places where we need workers. Nearly 60% of people that take our system right now are underneath the poverty threshold. So what we're doing is we're creating economic mobility for people. 80% of those people are going to jobs.
The proposed MetroLink Green Line would run from Chippewa in South St. Louis down Jefferson Avenue and across North St. Louis to Natural Bridge to Grand Avenue at Fairgrounds Park. The line would be 5.6 miles. There would be 10 stations and a transfer station to collect to the existing system. It would carry an estimated 5,000 people a day and cost $1.1 billion.
while Talby Roach is a cheerleader for this deal, not all government leaders are on board. We talked to the head of St. Charles County government, who has some pretty big questions.
Elman says it reminds him of another federally funded project.
Elliot, you talk about the loop trolley. This project is the loop trolley on steroids.
Elman doesn't think this will go over with the feds.
If they look at all the places in the country where they could invest this money, I don't think serving 5,000 people with $1.1 billion makes a lot of economic sense. Mass transit works if you have the necessary density. And there may be the necessary density in South St. Louis City, but in North St. Louis City, there's not enough people there to justify this.
We'll always take critiques and we'll talk to leaders around the area about what is the way that we move to our future. We're talking about bringing vibrancy back to St. Louis.
The argument is that North St. Louis underserved, so you need to build this so that they can have the
Well,
service.
let's go out and buy as many buses that we need.
Do you think this is actually going to happen?
I do. I think we have a look, no matter what, we have to put our submission into the federal government and we'll have to see if it happens. There's no guarantees.
I'm told one thing Talby Roach will try to do is bring down that $1.1 billion price tag to about $850 million, something supporters believe may make this project easier for the feds to swallow. You know I'm going to stay on top of this deal. After all, you paid for it.
So our community request, the Jeff-Vander-Lou community is not anti-expansion of the North-South MetroLink. We are opposing the Metro leg extension to nowhere. Our entire eastern border along Jefferson is already impacted by this proposed route. And it is highly disingenuous to adversely impact the northern border where our National Historic District is located. We're asking for a letter of support from individuals and groups, neighborhood associations, to urge Bi-State Metro to go back and consider rerouting the leg to nowhere out of our neighborhood. So before we take questions, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to pull up the document from Lafayette Square. And Ms. Greenfield, you have the floor, ma'am.
Hello. I think you can hear me, right? I think I had the microphone on. Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you. I'm just kind of looking more at the entire route and the entire proposed route, which is 5.6 miles. And as Mrs. Alexander showed us, it goes from Chippewa and Jefferson in the south all the way up north and then back over west into JVL. So the proposed cost at this point, and this was in, I think, 2022 dollars perhaps, is $1.1 billion. And the Bi-State is seeking federal funding for 50 to 60% of that cost, but must find matching funds for the other 40 to 50%. So, you know, my main concern, and I don't represent my entire neighborhood association, just so you know, my Lafayette Square neighborhood association has not been willing to take a position on this issue. But as Mrs. Alexander explained, we connected at our August neighborhood association meeting because we were already, a few of us here in the neighborhood were already kind of meeting and talking. And when they gave their great, phenomenal presentation that she just gave, I was like, yes, okay, we found our allies. And little did I know how active they already were in the community, which has been fantastic to learn and really heartening to me to witness that and to be part of that. So I first and foremost am concerned about the cost, knowing that the MetroLink has been historically pretty underutilized as a system since it was first implemented in the 1990s. And my document here shows the 2023 average use of MetroLink, which is pretty underwhelming. That's existing line. So that kind of leads me to question, and my neighbors here who are part of our group, what is the need for expansion? And we were told that by some of the a firm that Bi-State and the city have already hired at our June neighborhood association meeting, they tried to sell us a bill of goods which said that Jefferson Avenue offered access to so many things, so it was a natural selection. Of course, we also learned that this tax passed in 2017, and the Jefferson route actually wasn't determined until 2022. And then that's when they started kind of like trying to catch up with that, right? So now they're saying, they tried to tell us that commuters would have access to major employers, major hospitals and medical facilities, just a variety of kinds of places that don't maybe necessarily exist on Jefferson. So we were confused by that presentation. And then it kind of came right down to eventually the city, who had a representative at our association meeting in June, said that basically it comes down to Jefferson being selected because it was wide enough to accommodate a center lane rail system without having to take too many properties. So to me, it kind of went from, okay, here's our story we're giving you, which is Jefferson offers access to all these amenities and these essential services, right? To, oh, well, really, it meets the north-south criteria and it's wide enough where we won't have to take as many of your properties and you're in the 16 neighborhoods, where this is going to border or cut into neighborhoods. So we're kind of looking at it as a whole, all 5.6 miles of it, and have a lot of concerns. The proposal is in front of federal eyes now. So it is beyond the stage of changing, right, this route, at least at this time. We are still, we're being told by Bi-State, it's kind of a done deal. If we get funding, it's going to happen. We are been told at open houses, if you don't like it, you can move. Just not acceptable. We were not, our input was not sought up front. As JVL can attest, they've been involved for quite some time in their community planning, and this was thrust upon their neighborhood. So of course, and they were already very active, right? And this is how they learned about it. Okay, it's done deal. This is what's the best for you. We know what's best. And so, that again, others decide what's best for neighborhoods. And while we do have, fans of this proposal, I tend to think that they're very idealistic, which I probably once was myself when I was younger. But I don't think, and I know the Post-Dispatch came up with a presentation called, if they build it, they will come. And I don't think that will happen. This proposal has the second lowest ridership projections in the country, just behind Irvine, California. My hope is that the feds won't fund it because of that, but we just don't know. And so we're trying to make as much noise here kind of as we can and involve the 16 neighborhoods and then outreach beyond that as well to kind of state our position. We have a petition as well. We tried to, with Elliott Davis, we're trying to really kind of get out there, so to speak. We need a lot more signatures on our petition. We want to take that petition to our federally elected officials as kind of a way to get a meeting with them. And we're kind of hoping for a significant number of signatures. We met with Megan Green, our Board of Aldermen president, last Thursday. I think she's in favor of this, but she said she would take some of our questions and concerns to, I guess, Bi-State. So that's kind of where we are here. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, are there any questions?
Mrs. Alexander, I see one of our guests, Jenny Berger, posted a couple of questions, and I'm sorry, Ms. Greenfield as well, in the chat. So I'll just read those so everyone knows what they are. And if you would be able to respond, that'd be wonderful. So she says, first of all, thank you so much for continuing to lead in JVL and keep citizens informed. Her first question is, what is the timing of the next significant milestone or decision on this project? And second, what is your alderperson's point of view? And who are the ultimate decision makers?
Okay, Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
you want 1, 2, or 3?
Um, so I'll take one. How about that?
Okay.
Timeline, which is super fuzzy. So we don't really have a timeline that has been shared with us. And I'm under the impression a federal decision could be made at any moment because this proposal is in front of the federal government, which is the 50 to 60% funding. So I don't know where it is in that stage, but I do know that it has been submitted. The city and bi-state have submitted this proposal to the feds. So I would say we could learn something one way or the other anytime.
Mhm. And then I will just speak on our alder people. Okay, so we have 2 alderpersons in the Jeff-Vander-Lou. Our wards are Ward 11 and then Ward 14. Ward 11 is Laura Keys, Alderwoman Laura Keys, and Alderman Rasheen Aldridge is Ward 14. So just candidly, we can say that we had a board bill that passed, and it was regarding the zoning, transit zoning for this project. Well, Alderwoman Keys hasn't given her reasons for favoring that board bill, which did pass. It's an ordinance now for that transit zoning. But Alderman Aldridge voted against it. He voted with the community. So Alderman Aldridge also invited us to make an effort to introduce another board bill. The board bill for that zoning was not complete. Shane Cone, Alderman Shane Cone, was a sponsor of that zoning board bill, but it was not complete. First of all, it had the direction going from north to south, and that was not what Mr. Talby Roach said. He said it goes from south to north. So it was some discrepancy there. Another discrepancy was when they talked about the 10 proposed stations, and that the zoning would impact the areas that were a half-mile radius from those proposed stations. They did not list the properties. So everyone's calling us and asking us, is our property a half-mile? We don't know. It's like, we don't know. And they should have defined that in that board bill. So it is hoped that Alderman Aldridge can, introduce another bill and we make this complete. We're cooperating and we're asking Bi-State Metro and the planning department and the city to cooperate with us as well. But they know that they pushed that thing through. They pushed it through so fast because they're in this federal application process. And it was not right. That's the way we feel.
And I can say for Lafayette Square, our alderperson is Kara Spencer. And she has shared with us at our neighborhood association meetings that she attends pretty much monthly that she's opposed to this. However, somewhat contradictory, she's opposed to this, but she also signed off on she voted in favor of the ordinance change from residential to transit zoning within a half mile. So I was a little Yeah, I didn't quite know how to read that, right? So it's a little bit conflicting to me, but she's in the process, she tells us, of trying to get some more answers to our questions as well. And I think she might come out with a position, official position by the end of the month on this project.
Thank you. I noticed we had a follow-up on that question from Jenny asking, if approved by the federal government, where would the 40 to 50% remaining funding come from?
Some of it can come from the tax already collected that, you know, was enacted through that proposition back in 2017. Our understanding is they have like 90 million collected from that, but it's divided up. I don't know if the 90 million is specifically for light rail, the north-south, or if the 90 million is cumulative for all the different areas that were listed on the initiative. But that would still only be a really small, even if it was a full 90, which it's not, because they've already used, my understanding is 30 million off the top of that for the consultants, for the environmental studies that they had to do in order to even get it in front of the feds. So we, in the absence of any information that says, oh, we got this over here, we can pay for this remaining, what is it? I can't even remember. It's such a high amount. The remaining amount will be, let's see. Yeah, about 200 plus million. So, and then there will be 8 to 9 million annually just for the upkeep once this is built. So this will be a taxpayer's burden without a doubt.
Thank
I
you.
just, you know, of course, we all think, you know, could our taxes be, you know, going somewhere else, you know?
Certainly. I noticed that Jeanette Mott Oxford, who is with Paraquad, is on our call. And she noted in the chat, just so everyone knows, that Bi-State Development Board of Commissioners meet next on Friday, November 15th. And because the St. Louis Metropolitan Alliance for Reliable Transit has been advocating, the board does now take public testimony at their 8:30 a.m. meeting. So she gives a link where we can all watch for an opportunity to sign up and give public testimony, which I think is a great opportunity for those of us, all of us at Women's Voices want to take action to support our community members. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you, Jeanette. And she also indicates that SMART has found the best window for sending public comments is after the board subcommittee meetings, but by close of business the day before the commissioners meet. So there is a strategy also involved in the best way to submit your comments. We will save this meeting chat so that I can provide that information, and we can to those of you who attended today. So we can, you know, you have that. You don't have to worry about copying it unless you want to take a screenshot now. We have another question from Jean Calandrino, who is our current vice president and finance chair or finance officer. And she asks, if the project doesn't go through, what would the tax money already collected be used for?
That's a good question. Because I think it depends on, again, how much has been collected specifically for this north-south as it was listed, you know, on Proposition 1 in 2017. And that was, Mrs. Alexander, does that specifically say light rail or MetroLink? I can't remember the language.
Yeah, number one was north-south MetroLink.
Okay.
And you had the infrastructure, the public safety, you know, had a lot grouped on there.
Yeah. A lot of other areas, but were you clear from our meeting with Megan Green if the 90 million was total collected for all areas or was just a portion to the north-south? I was a little fuzzy on that. Okay.
You're fuzzy as well. Yeah, it was too vague. It was too, I didn't capture, you know, something with clarity.
Yeah, I didn't either. So sorry we don't have all the details there.
No, that's okay. It sounds like you're not being provided very specific information, which is a problem. We have from Debbie Pratt a question. Does the president of the Board of Aldermen, Megan Green, who you mentioned meeting, support this project? And she apologizes if you've already answered this question, but she wasn't clear on that.
Oh, that's okay. I would say that she does. I don't think that she necessarily said outright at our meeting last Thursday that she is in favor of it, but she was very open and receptive to listening to us and to hearing our concerns, and said that she would again relay our questions where she couldn't answer them. She would relay them to others who may be able to do so. She did tell us now her reasoning for Jefferson was a little bit different than everyone else's so far, but maybe everyone has their own opinion. She said that South City, the south part of the route, had a number of people who didn't residing there, who didn't have access to vehicles and who met, the threshold of low income, underserved. And that is part of, and I probably should have stated that, but that is part of the federal funding here. And Mrs. Alexander has a little bit more information about that, but they've kind of wrapped in the underserved as part of this project to qualify for some of the federal, these federal dollars, by the way, are specific to light rail. So it's kind of like, and I'm sorry, this is an editorial comment, but I'm a grants person, and you try not to mission shift just to match funding. And I feel like because this is, just light rail funding, they decided it was there, let's go for it, so it unfortunately doesn't would not fund additional bus routes or new and updated buses. And we were also told by the Board of Alderman President Megan Green that there are fewer buses along Jefferson because of staffing issues and hiring problems. That it was her opinion, or her position was that it didn't indicate that Jefferson didn't have the need for public transportation, but that they couldn't keep people, or they couldn't employ enough people to drive the buses. I don't know about that. Possibly. I know that's always an issue, right? I mean, the pay and all of that.
Yeah, I just want to add, President Green, we believe, Mr. Alexander, when we looked at the zoning footage for that meeting that they had, the public hearing, and I think it was the full Board of Aldermen, I think President Green did vote in favor of the zoning. So
yeah,
that's what it is. As far as the ridership, yes, the density is in South St. Louis, but not North St. Louis. But however, if you're going for the Title VI money, which is associated, with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you can't take away our services. So if you're going to make it harder for us to get to a proposed station just to catch this 35-mile-an-hour street level light rail, that makes it harder. I think Miss Greenfield, you had someone on next door to even say, they're disabled and they love the transit. It's not that we don't want any transportation. My sister-in-law was born with spina bifida. And, she would catch Carla ride, and sometimes Carla ride wouldn't show up, so she would miss her appointments. But the thing is, we feel that by state, they do accommodate the disabled, with their transit systems. But we just know that, and deep down inside our hearts, we just feel that this is not for the North Side. It's not for jobs. It's not to build stores. It's not to do this. It's actually, we feel it's for the National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency. And we feel that it's based on a 2015 plan when they were, bringing the NGA here, that part of transit development was involved in that plan. So our biggest thing is that they are running at street level in front of our homes. That is not heard of in Ladue, in Brentwood, in Clayton. The more affluent neighborhoods don't have to deal with this again. That's just our take on it.
Thank you for those responses. We have another question from Karen Francis, who is our current president, and she indicates she doesn't know all the neighborhoods impacted, so she's sorry about that, but she would like to know if this will also impact the Lafayette Square area.
Mhm.
Yes, it will. It will come right down, or I guess up, whichever direction it's going at the time. Jefferson right here. So Jefferson is one of our boundaries for our neighborhood. And it's really interesting. As we were talking earlier, I looked at our historic code. So Lafayette Square in 1972 became a city historic district. In 1986, it was entered into the National Register of Historic Places. So the entire neighborhood is on the National Register. And it's very interesting. But I think unless this was repealed, it looks to me like the historic district is bounded here by the center median Choteau to the north, the center median of Truman Parkway to the east, Highway 44 on the south, and the center median of Jefferson on the west, which is exactly smack dab where the light rail will go, which is very intriguing. So that actually, if those borders are still effective, then that would make the light rail technically in the Lafayette Square National Historic District, which I would think that we would have other codes within that designation that would prevent something like that.
Mhm.
And Megan Green, again, she definitely kind of held on to, because at the end of our meeting, she said she wanted to see how this would play with with the historic codes.
I was wondering about that.
Mhm. Yeah, same, right? Yeah. And I'll tell you, personally, I can look through my living room window here and see Jefferson. I'm very close.
Mhm.
And obviously my zoning has changed, I guess, technically, from what I presume was residential to transit. And we're a National Historic District.
Right.
And on a personal level, I live in Bridgeton. So
Mhm.
I was part of the massive buyout with the
Mhm.
airport expansion. So this is near and dear. You talk about dismantling neighborhoods. My school district lost 7 elementary buildings because of that buyout.
My, wow.
And then I also have one more question. I would love to see the screenshot of all the justifications, Miss Alexander, that you shared. I didn't get my camera fast enough.
Oh, that's okay. If I could screen share again.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So let's see. So real quickly, as far as the routes, so let's look at this. So we have downtown. I'm sorry. Yeah, downtown is up there, but we start in the south with Dutchtown. We have Gravois Park, Marine Villa, Benton Park West. We have Fox Park, McKinley Heights, Lafayette Square, the Gate District, Midtown, Downtown West. We have Carr Square, St. Louis Place, Hyde Park, Fairground, and then Jeff-Vander-Lou. So those are the 16 neighborhoods on that corridor. Now,
And then if you could share the one that had all your little talking points, I just didn't get all of those, and those were great.
yes, ma'am, we'll share that.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me find that.
I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, it's taking a minute here, but I think we got it. So, okay, let me stop there and screen share again. Okay, can you all see that?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let me see if I can enlarge this a little bit. So the only thing that's not on here is how the ballot, the language on that ballot in 2017, but those are all the concerns that Bi-State Metro, they have not addressed with us. And then they also said that they were going to send us footage on light rails traveling in front of homes and residential areas, but we haven't received anything yet.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you for that.
Thank you.
We have another question. A guest, Patty Hayda, has asked, does the neighborhood have a copy of the federal application to see what details are listed in it? And as a public, since this is a public process, is it requestable?
That's a good question. I'm ready to ask it, right? That's a great question. So no, we don't have a copy of it, but we're ready to ask for it.
So it is something that you can request as a citizen. It's public, should be publicly available.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm asking, I don't know, but
Oh,
it seems.
yeah, we don't know. We don't know either. I know the Jeff-Vander-Lou Neighborhood Association and our Jeff-Vander-Lou Neighborhood Planning Committee wrote to Mayor Jones. We sent her a letter. So she's aware. Her chief of staff, Jared Boyd, her senior advisor, all of them, they know what's going on. So that's a great question. And we will ask that today.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So just to add to my question, maybe it was submitted by Bi-State, because that could be the other entity. Since
Yeah, I think it may have been, Mrs. Alexander, was it submitted actually by East West Gate or what?
Gateway of
Council
Council.
of
Mhm.
Government? Yeah, I think that's who is the official submitter, maybe.
We don't really know, but
Yeah.
we want everyone to also know we had a Zoom meeting just like this, April 4th of last year with President and CEO, Mr. Talby Roach and his team. City officials were on that meeting. So they know us, we know them. And we met Mr. Charles Stewart the other day. He's second in charge at Bi-State. And so we can call them as well and ask them that beautiful question. May we have a copy of the federal application? I know that they're going to have, Bi-State Metro, they're going to have some town halls or some open houses coming up in November. And so our people will be right there. And if we don't get an answer, we're going to keep asking, right? We're going to keep on. So thank you all for your encouragement.
Yeah, and I did. So they have hosted some open houses, and I attended one in April, which I have to say, like, that's really what kind of solidified my action here, and really just trying to do outreach with my neighbors. How do you feel about this? And because I basically was met with a lot of gaslighting at the open house. I was kind of told by Bi-State that I should have realized that this was going to be a Jefferson route. And I was thinking, no, I don't think that's the original. And of course, we've since we've done the research, learned that that was only arrived at in 2022. I was also told that basically the money was specific to light rail, and that's why they were going for it. That's why it couldn't be anything else. And I had a neighbor who was essentially told by a Bi-State representative that if he wasn't happy with it, he could move. And he bought a house built in the 1870s in 2021 that sits on Park in the 2300 block, like me, on Park. And, you know, they uprooted their lives from California to wanted to live in a National Historic District. and being told by a bi-state, someone representing bi-state, well, that if he's not happy, he can move. I just thought that was interesting for a city that's struggling with population and people leaving. So
Good, excellent point. Thank you.
disappointing.
Very disappointing and very inhospitable.
Mhm.
We have a question from Mary Albert, and she makes an interesting point with her question. If bi-state can't find bus drivers, how will the MetroLink extension staff rail cars? Light rail cars.
That would be a good question. I mean, if everyone could attend some of these, open houses and speak out on this, it will help our movement. So that's a great question as well. We don't have any idea how they will staff the rail.
I know President Green, I think she was kind of comparing the staffing of a light rail to the staffing of the buses. And I think she was implying that the light rail would take less staffing to operate than the bus routes. And I think that's kind of where she was going with that whole thing about, well, our buses, we can't find drivers, we can't keep them employed, we don't have enough. So I think she was trying to say that light rail would be better in that regard. She didn't actually say that, but I think that was the implication.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Diane McCullough, thanks you very much for this informative and very important meeting. And I had a question. I think we have time for one last, which I think you've already touched on a little bit, Mrs. Alexander, but maybe you could flesh it out. How can citizens, like many of those attending today who are not residents in the affected neighborhoods, best support your efforts? And can we sign the petitions? Can we contact federal and local officials supporting your efforts and bi-state officials and attend meetings? What are the actions that would be most helpful to you from those of us who aren't in the neighborhood, so can't actively be a part of your neighborhood associations?
Oh, so this is a citywide, countywide movement. And so if you all have social media, please share the petition. We're trying to get more signatures. If you can also, I think Women's Voices, we sent you guys a flyer that had the QR code with the petition
Yes,
and
you did.
other materials. And I just want to say for the record, the group that came out to the MetroLink Hanley station did a wonderful job. If you all can post that footage with Elliot Davis, your interviews were wonderful. So just word of mouth, you all know how word of mouth works better than anything. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, associates. Yes, yes, and yes. You can sign the petition, you could contact your federal and local officials, bi-state officials, just all the above, because we're all working in different pockets and it'll all come together. So the more voices we have, the better.
Thank you. And to clarify, this isn't a partisan issue. There's no political party involved on either side. You're basically talking about the community's rights to be represented in these decisions and to have decisions made that support your needs, as I understand it.
Yes.
That's right.
Mhm.
It's grassroots in every way.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because we just feel our taxpayer dollars can be better used. We've been longing for, homes and building inside our neighborhood with building stores and attracting people back to the city. And we just feel this is a waste of our money just to dig up our streets and then damage our homes and, things that we already have. And we don't want to use our taxpayer dollars to damage what we have.
Thank you. Very well-made point. And we're at our 1 o'clock point. We're always very conscious of protecting people's time. So I just want to take a moment to thank you so much on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of Women's Voices Raised, Mrs. Alexander and Ms. Greenfield, for your time, your expertise, all of the guidance you've given us on how we can support this very, very important issue in my mind. And for those of you here, if you do have remaining questions, you can send them to Women's Voices and we'll be happy to provide you answers through our guests. If you also want more information on how to get involved, feel free to reach out to Ann Litwin or myself as co-chairs of the Racial Justice Committee, we kind of hosted this particular Lunch and Learn, so we'd love to continue and follow up with actions that we all can take. So without any more comments, thank you again so much, Mrs. Alexander, for being here, and Ms. Greenfield as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so much.
Thank you so much.